Welcome to an hour of HealthMade Radio. HealthMade is a community for natural health seekers where we educate people about common health conditions and share extensive research on the most effective natural health treatments and promote legislation that protects our health freedoms. A core concept belief is in the innate intelligence and healing power of the body, and if properly supported spiritually, emotionally, and nutritionally, it can find its way back to health. HealthMade Radio will bring information from integrative health experts throughout the world. Check us out at healthmade.co. Health is what you make it. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, and I will be your host. Today's guest is Dean Sluyter. Award-winning author Dean Sluyter has taught natural methods of meditation and awakening since 1970. His 5 highly acclaimed books include the back-to-back Amazon #1 stress management bestsellers, Natural Meditation, and Fear Less, Living Beyond Fear, Anxiety, Anger, and Addiction. Dean gives talks, workshops, and retreats throughout the United States and beyond, from Ivy League colleges to maximum security prisons. His media appearances have included National Public Radio, the New York Times, New York Magazine, Coast to Coast AM, the Dr. Oz Show, and the Oprah Magazine. A grateful student of Eastern and Western sages in several traditions, Dean has completed numerous pilgrimages and retreats in India, Tibet, Nepal, and the West. He is known for conveying authentic teachings in forms that are relaxed, accessible, and down-to-earth. In Fear Less, award-winning author Dean Sluyter shows how to use simple meditative techniques and subtle tweaks of body, mind, and breath to open your life to deep, relaxed confidence. Drawing on ancient Enlightenment teachings as well as contemporary research, he lays out practical, easy-to-follow steps for addressing such issues as letting go of compulsive overthinking, loosening the bonds of addiction, including smartphone addiction, which is a huge issue nowadays, overcoming the fear of death, finding meditative stillness in the thick of activity. Dean, it's such an honor to have you on the show today, and I mean, this is such a powerful tool that I think everyone should get to know and learn how to use.
Oh, thanks so much. It's great to be here.
So it's been quite a journey. I mean, you've been teaching this since 1970, so we're looking at almost 50 years now. What
right.
That's a while.
Yeah.
So what brought you into this direction? What intrigued you?
You know, really, I was being pulled in this direction since childhood. I didn't completely understand it at the time, but I had a few kind of spontaneous awakening experiences as a kid that sort of made me say, what's going on here? And by the time I was in high school, I was starting to seek out the books like the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao Te Ching, which were actually harder to find in 50 years ago than they are now. And I said, here's some words that go with my experiences, and I'm not the only one, and this stuff's been known for centuries, and look at this, there are methods for accessing this kind of opening to boundlessness, this opening to vastness that had just sort of happened to me by accident. Oh, look, there are ways of opening to it systematically. So instead of waiting for another accident to happen, you can sit down and close your eyes and go there every day.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And so then, becoming intrigued then of all these different ancient traditions that already existed, you then went on, you studied then in India, you studied in Tibet. I mean, tell me some of the kind of interesting learnings that you had and experiences that really caught your attention and thinking this I think is very important, and I'm really glad I went here.
Yeah, boy, there's so many of them. I think this was my most recent trip to India. about 4 or 5 years ago, and the guide that I was with took me. We were in a small group of Westerners, and our guide took. We were in Varanasi or Benares, the ancient holy city on the Ganges, and this was an American woman who spent a lot of time in India, and she wanted to take us to her kind of most revered teacher, and taking us through all these back streets and back alleys of Varanasi, and riding the little, tuk-tuks, the little, which is basically a lawnmower motor with 3 wheels, and getting caught in the flooded intersections. I had to get out and push, and then working our way through the alleys by foot, and finally getting into the upstairs room with this man who looked like he was about 1,000 years old, and he lectured to us for about, I don't know, an hour or two with very esoteric knowledge, drawing diagrams of the chakras and the energies and the esoteric mantras associated with all the different energy centers and so forth. And by the end, most of the people in the group seemed pretty bewildered. So I raised my hand and I said, Guruji, if you can tell us one thing to take home from all of this, what would it be? And he said, who are you? I said, okay.
I can remember that one.
Yes. And then at lunch, someone who afterward, a couple who were really very new to this stuff said, and they clearly had never heard. I said, "What do you think he meant? Who are you?" And fortunately, I'd been exposed to teachings like that made it clear that we tend to identify ourselves with all the things around us, the things we experience. Okay, this is hot. Now I'm experiencing heat. Now I'm experiencing cold. Now I'm experiencing a pleasant sensation. Now I'm experiencing an unpleasant sensation. And out of all that, we spend our lives trying to find something stable, something that we can hold on to, something we can rely on, feel that, okay, with this thing, I've come home. And we make the mistake of trying to find something stable among our experiences, when all along the only thing that's stable through that is the experiencer, is the awareness that's aware of all those things, and that is what you are, as it turns out. You're not your body. Every time you look down, it's a different body. This is not the body I saw when I was 15 years old, or even the one I had this morning. You're not your thoughts or your attitudes or your emotions. Those keep changing. But there's this silent, just vein of pure, simple, silent, vast, non-phenomenal awareness running through it all, and that you are, that thou art, as the old texts say. And you can always, turns out it's really easy to settle into that. That's so-called meditation. People think meditation means having to push away your thoughts or having to concentrate on something or try to feel some happy mood or spiritual mood. When what it is relaxing into yourself, relaxing into this pure awareness which you are. And that turns out to be easy. It's very natural.
Because most people, when they try to meditate, and it's exactly what you're saying. You have thoughts going in all directions. You think, how long have I been sitting here?
Right.
This is getting uncomfortable. I wonder what the kids are doing out there. Are things getting done at work, and so forth. All these thoughts are continually there. So how are you able to be able to settle into this awareness, the I am awareness,
right?
In the middle of all of that?
You do it by, what you do is you treat the thoughts the way you treat all the other people at the other tables in the restaurant. You're sitting there by yourself, quietly eating your slice of pie. And if suddenly you say, how can I enjoy my slice of pie when the people people at this table are talking about the football game, and people at this table are talking about politics, and people over here are talking about, once you decide that that's a problem, and you run around trying to shush all the other diners, which is what most people, that's how they approach meditation, thinking they have to shush all their thoughts. It's an endless task. It's like playing whack-a-mole. As soon as you whack one mole down, and two more pop up behind you. It can't be done. No one can do that. But if you just say, okay, it's there, and it's just like it's just part of the wallpaper. It's just like the sounds of the traffic going by. I don't have to engage with it. I don't have to try to push it away. I don't have to buy into it. I just treat it like some, one more texture of what's going on. Relax into myself, into this awareness, which is like the open sky, regarding all the sounds, all the thoughts, all the feelings that come and go, as being like clouds coming and going in the sky. The sky doesn't care. The sky's got room for everything. And as you do that, the more you do that, the more you find out, this way you don't have to do anything to settle down. You can't try to settle down, because trying is a form of agitation. But then the natural gravitation of the mind toward peace and happiness takes over, and you don't have to push anything. You just get pulled within.
So, because you were mentioning, it's kind of like eating your apple pie.
Right.
But that is still an object that you create a focus on. So here,
right.
This awareness, it's just something that naturally just take place. So it's kind of like an effortless, just allowing it to become.
Yeah, it sounds, when we try to talk about it, it sounds a little complicated. And anything that we say is going to be more complicated than how simple it really is. I always like to invite people to my website and my YouTube channel, where I have guided meditations. They're free. They're open to everyone. And once you get walked through that natural process once or twice, you go, oh, this is so much simpler than the way I was thinking about it.
And that website is deanwords.com, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
So DEAN, then words.com.
Mm-hmm.
So for an individual then that wants to start this process of meditating,
mm-hmm.
I mean, what would be some of the kind of general guidelines of how to position yourself, how to sit, what kind of environment, what kind of time frame?
Right.
What are some of the guidelines that you would give?
Yeah. Well, the guidelines that I give are very different from what most people expect or what they hear elsewhere. Sit comfortably. If you can't sit comfortably, lie down on the floor on your back, or lie down in a hammock. If you have back problems or something, it's much more important to sit comfortably than to have some perfect yogic posture and, look like a picture in a book. No one's taking your picture. You're not getting a grade on posture. So sit comfortably. As far as the time is concerned, you sit for a while. If you're in a hurry, sit for a little while. The best thing to do is throw the timepiece out of your meditation space, so that it doesn't become like what you were saying before. Okay, I'm up to 15 minutes. If I just clench my teeth, I can get up to 20. Don't make a task of it. How long should you meditate? How long do you walk in the park with the one you love? How long do you listen to your favorite music? All of these things, we forget about the time because we're just naturally sinking into enjoyment. And that's the best approach to take to meditation. That's much more important than how you sit or where you're sitting. Do it anywhere. Do it when you find out that once you get keyed into this natural approach, you realize you don't need silence. You can, I've meditated. I like to meditate on the subway system in New York because it's nice and loud. So there's no question of, I need it to be still on the outside. No, the stillness is on the inside.
Yeah. And then for people that, they say, well, as soon as I lay down or as soon as I sit, I fall asleep.
Mm-hmm. So that's fine. That means you need sleep.
Oh, okay. So
that means you need sleep. Yeah. It's better usually to meditate not on a full stomach because not at 11 o'clock at night because then you'll probably fall asleep every time. But if you're meditating during the day and not after a heavy meal and sleep comes, it means that that's what the nervous system needs. Mother Nature is much smarter about these things than we are. And also, often what's happening when you fall asleep in this natural process of meditation is that old stresses, old traumas, their neurophysiological imprints are getting cleansed out of the nervous system. And sometimes nature kind of knocks us out, kind of, gives us the anesthesia before the surgery. So it's great for that to happen. I love falling asleep in meditation. And then after a while, with continued practice, that probably will happen less as that stuff gets purged out of the nervous system.
Wonderful. We're going to take a quick break. You're here listening to HealthMate Radio. I'm here with Dean Sluyter. Welcome back to HealthMate Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, and you're listening to award-winning author Dean Sluyter, his latest book, Fear Less. So we've been talking about meditation and technique and also or lack of technique, the importance of lack of technique.
Yes. Well put.
Yeah. And but your book is called Fear Less. So how do they connect with each other? Meditation, fear less. I mean, what's the interrelationship?
Right. Well, people have so many different fears. Some people are afraid of flying. Some people are afraid of public speaking. A lot of people are afraid of death. And they also have problems that we have in the subtitle of the book: anxiety, anger, addiction. I mean, we kind of ran out of room on the cover. We could have kept going. Shame, guilt, all of that.
Yeah.
And they all seem like very different conditions. But if we look a little more closely, we'll see that really they're all manifestations of one condition. And that is being cut off from that who am I that we were talking about in the first segment, that place of just silent awareness, that place of home, that place of that inner that, from time to time we settle into accidentally. Now, the more we get in touch with that, the more we find out we can be in touch with that all the time, that feeling of home, then we realize that all those fears, the rages, the craving for addictive substances are just manifestations of feeling not at home, of feeling disconnected, feeling isolated. So what I do in the book Fear Less is, in addition to discussing this kind of natural meditation that we discussed in the first segment, I also give a lot of kind of quick fixes, things that you can do in, a minute or 30 seconds in the middle of activity. For example, one that actually as soon as the book was published, this went up on Oprah's website, and it's still up there, and I've gotten a lot of emails from people all over the world telling me how useful they found this. And the method is simply this, and we can do this right now, actually, which is breathe through your feet. So as you're sitting, wherever you are, or walking or driving, you don't have to close your eyes. You can if you want, but not if you're driving, please. Whatever's going on is still going on. The sounds and the colors, everything around you comes and goes. So everything within you, the thoughts, the emotions come and go on the inside. The sensations come and go. And as you take your next breath in, just feel or imagine that you're breathing in through the soles of your feet. And now as you're breathing out, feel or imagine that you're breathing out through the soles of your feet. And again, breathing in through the soles of your feet. And breathing out through the soles of your feet. And one more time, breathing in through the soles of the feet. And breathing out through the soles of your feet. Okay. How you feeling?
It feels good.
Doesn't it? You notice that there is a kind of a settling down, kind of a centering that takes place?
Yeah, and also, I mean, I've done these kind of meditations where you kind of create a root system, all the way to the center of the earth, so you can feel grounded, and it feels very much like that. You kind of feel the energy connecting with earth.
Right.
But then it's that fluid motion, where when you're breathing in and breathing out, it creates more of a fluidity with that. So it's not like you're just kind of anchored and that's all you are, but it's kind of a fluid anchoring.
Yeah, and I love this because it's so simple. I like simple, and I like stuff that I can share with people in about 30 seconds. I like easy, and I just keep getting feedback from people. I got one email from someone saying, I was plagued with insomnia, and now I'm doing this breathing through my feet in bed at night, and this stuff's going to put Ambien out of business. I heard from another woman saying, I was just deathly afraid of flying, and my job changed, so I had to fly every week, and just breathing through my feet when I'm buckling up has just really freed me from that fear. So, it's very fulfilling to hear reports like that.
Yep, absolutely. And this is something that, like you mentioned, you can do at any time.
Yeah.
And, if you feel anxious, feel depressed, feel afraid, feel just doing this, and that will help to settle you down.
Let me share another one that's especially good for depression, since you mentioned that, and just feeling grumpy and grouchy. It's great when you wake up in the morning if you feel grouchy or any time, really.
Just a lack of coffee syndrome. Is that?
That's it. That's
okay.
it. Yeah. I think I was born with a coffee deficiency.
Exactly.
Fortunately, there's a medication for that.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that's freely available.
That's right. So here's what So for this one, it's a mantra, and most people are familiar with mantras such as Om, which is wonderful. It's been around for thousands of years for good reasons, but this is a different mantra. And what we do is, as you say this mantra, there's also the mudra, the hand position that goes along with it, which is, as you pronounce this mantra, you throw your hands up in the gesture of just wild exuberance. Okay? and the mantra is, whee!
I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. My workshops, and by the way, I travel around the country. I teach workshops everywhere, and I always get the whole crowd throwing their hands up and saying "wee." And here's my challenge to anyone, especially people that say, "Boy, that just sounds completely stupid." I go, "Great, fine. It sounds stupid." Or people who feel depressed. If you feel depressed, this is the last thing in the world you're going to want to do.
Yes.
But you just, tie yourself to the mast and force yourself to do it. And throw your hands up and wild abandon and say, wee, 3 times, and then try to be depressed.
See, I can picture in your travels, being in some holy monastery in Tibet, and this is the technique that the monks taught you right there. They all screamed "wee" with their hands straight up.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's so much fun. I got an email from a woman a couple of years ago saying, "I wanted to let you know my husband and I attended your workshop in Austin, Texas last year. Yesterday, we were driving home from the dealership in our brand new Lexus, and we were broadsided by a state trooper's car, shoved us into the ravine on the side of the highway. We rolled over a couple of times, finally came to a halt. The dust settled. We looked at ourselves. We looked at each other. We realized we were both okay, and spontaneously we both threw up our hands and said, "Whee!"
That is great. See what a different message that sends to the body, and all the neurotransmitters and chemicals are produced just from that sound and that motion.
Exactly. Yeah. So you understand this, that, mind and body are always connected, and voice and body are always connected. And something here called the facial feedback hypothesis, which was first explored actually by Charles Darwin, which very simply says that our face tends to reflect our moods, but also our moods tend to reflect our face. Now, you can't say "we" without smiling. And you just that changes things.
Yeah, see, I'm smiling over here. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back. I'm here with award-winning author Dean Sluyter. Welcome back to Health Made Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt, and we have Dean Sluyter teaching us how to be happy and how to say "we" while we're throwing our hands up. And one of it comes along with the, like you're mentioning, the research that your facial expression directly correlates with the, how we feel physiologically. So, to kind of, even if you don't feel like it, to force a face that's smiling, they notice that then secretes a huge amount of neurotransmitters that makes you happy.
Right. I do have a chapter about smiling, and it's a little just smiling can be a little bit tricky, because sometimes people, in attempting to do that, they kind of plaster, they just pull back the corners of their mouth, and that unless you really want the smile to start in the eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul, and just kind of let it. Kind of like the sun rising. But the easiest way really is to say "we," partly because when you do that, you feel really stupid.
Yeah.
And feeling stupid is a very, very healing thing, because you just let go for once, trying to be clever, trying to be right, trying to get things correct, and just dare to be dopey. That's very, very healing.
You have to pretty much let go of all your defense mechanisms that kind of holding you in and stopping you from being real and being connected with who I am, when you do something silly like that.
Yeah. Years ago, I used to teach English as well as running meditation programs at a fancy prep school in New Jersey. And for a while, I taught a public speaking course. And, the people are very often just terrified to speak in public. In fact, I have in my book, Fearless, I have a chapter called Finding Your Fearless Voice. That's all about that. And I would have the kids there's an old Monty Python episode about the Ministry of Silly Walks.
Yeah, I remember that one. I love that one.
So I would have the kids, and of course I would participate as well. We would have a silly walks contest. The sillier the better. And that just really, you just loosen up all that taking yourself too seriously, and it just really takes a load off your heart.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I think that is a key component, is that we're all trying to play a role of being somebody that we're not. So, being silly then kind of breaks that house of cards down, so that you can more easily then find your true, being able to settle into your true self. Who am I? Right.
It's also, you mentioned all these roles that we play or attempt to play. We never really succeed. And I have a chapter where I talk about that, and I give some hints for just letting go of that stuff. One of the best things you can do is, when people say "let go," it's like, if I have this sense of my identity as being this or being that, it's too scary to think of letting go. So what I say is just drop it for 5 seconds, and actually just drop all your thoughts, whatever you're thinking about. And one thing that I recommend is you just clap your hands in front of your eyes. You kind of shock yourself a little bit. And as a signal to, just drop all your thoughts for 5 seconds. Now, drop them doesn't mean that they have to stop being there. But it means that you just relax your grip on them, that you just relax your engagement with them. You stop taking them seriously for 5 seconds. After 6 seconds, you can pick them up again. But that means whatever, people carry around so much stuff. They tell you, oh, I got this struggle with my parents, this conflict with my parents. I've been carrying this all your life. And you go, I've heard people say this. I say, oh, wait a minute, you're 50 years old. Your parents are still alive. Oh, no, they've been dead for years, and they're still engaged in that conflict. So that conflict is made out of thoughts. It exists 100% in their minds. So if they're saying, I'm carrying this around nonstop all my life, I say, okay, drop it for 5 seconds. Clap your hands, drop it for 5 seconds. After 6 seconds, pick it up again. Every time you do that, you are weakening its grip on you. Actually, thoughts can't have any grip on you. You are gripping them. And you're finding where the lever is, where you grip it, let it go. Grip it, let it go. As you more and more become familiar with where that lever is, you go, why do I keep gripping this? Why do I keep picking this up again? Just let it go.
Yeah, that's such an important aspect. I remember reading about all these geniuses, like Einstein and Mozart, and when they came up with their most amazing creation was in the stillness.
Yes.
It was when they were either asleep or when they were, and their focus was completely somewhere else, and that is where the biggest creation was taking place, was in that silence. So letting go of the thinking is where you find the solution for what's troubling you. Yeah. That's amazing. And so a lot of people, they're dealing with things like grief. You have loss of a loved one, and how can this then be beneficial in that kind of a process? Because that can be pretty heart-wrenching.
Yeah, and I'm old enough to have seen this a lot in other people and to have experienced it myself. I write in the book about my own experience of the death of my first wife, the mother of my children. So, it's not just theoretical for me. One of the stories that I tell there, I learned so much from Maggie, during our 25 years of marriage and as she was dying of cancer. One thing that happened, she was a couple of weeks away from dying. She was in the hospital, and she got a phone call from a friend, and they were very excited. They said, "Listen," and Maggie, was a fellow meditator, teacher, like me, and had traveled to Tibet and so forth. So the friend called up and very excited said, "Listen, I managed to get hold of these Tibetan monks. I can have them come to your room and do this special chanting for you." And Maggie said, "Oh, thanks so much, but, that wouldn't be authentic for me. That hasn't been my practice during my life. So that would not be an authentic thing for me to do now." And then she said the key words. She said, "My practice is just being without hope or fear." Okay. Now that's a big one.
Yeah.
Being without hope. Everyone wants to be without fear.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people. This is the advanced part. This is the PhD part. People can close their ears for this part if they don't feel ready to hear this. But if you can really hear this, it's very liberating, because hope and fear are really the two sides of the same coin. They're both investments in a certain outcome. Fear is the thought, really, if I let me put it this way. Hope is the thought, okay, everything will be great if I recover. And then fear is the thought, things will be really terrible if I don't recover. You can't have one without the other. You can't have the hope of winning the lottery without the dark underside of it, which is the fear that you're not going to win the lottery and your life is going to be the same old scurvy poverty. What if you just try, maybe for 5 seconds, maybe for 5 minutes, letting go of hope and fear and just being right where we are without being caught up in any scenarios for the future without being caught up in any of the endlessly replayed scenes from the past. If those things come up, just know, those are just thoughts. Those are just thoughts. I don't have to engage with them. I can relax my grip on them and just be right here in the self-sufficiency of the moment. That's a very deep practice.
Because we're always looking somewhere else rather than right here. And
right.
That somewhere else is, like you're mentioning, the fear or the hope is somewhere else. We're looking externally,
right.
We're looking at the solution elsewhere.
Yes, and then we're looking away from the self, and the self is the solution.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to take a quick break. I'd like to chat a little bit more about that.
Yes.
You're listening to Health Made Radio. I'm here with award-winning author Dean Sluyter. Welcome back to Health Made Radio. I'm Dr. Michael Karlfeldt. I'm here with award-winning author Dean Sluyter, the author of Fear Less, Living Beyond Fear, Anxiety, Anger, and Addiction. So the last word, or not the last words, but that statement of your wife, extremely powerful, and being in that place in her life, it just shows, who she is.
Yeah, that's right.
And how, so then coming back then to grief, going through that for you, and other people that you've seen gone through it. How should they position themselves? How should they, what can they do?
Well, the first thing is it's really good to be sitting down. Doesn't have to be for an hour or 2 hours, but sitting down for 10 minutes or 5 minutes a day and doing the kind of meditation we were talking about. And for people who missed the beginning of the program, if they come to my website, deanwords.com, I've got audio tracks, and on my YouTube channel, videos where I lead this kind of natural meditation, and where you just sink into the self. You sink below all of our emotions, all of our thoughts. We could think of them as being like the waves on the surface of the ocean. And people think, I need peace of mind, I need tranquility, and that means I'm going to have to flatten out all the waves on the surface. That's so hard to do. And when they sit to meditate, they try to flatten out all the waves. Or when they try to be peaceful, or when they try to conquer their grief or conquer their fear, they're trying to flatten out the waves. No one can do that. The waves are supposed to be there. The waves are part of the ocean. They belong there. The good news is that the waves are the smallest part of the ocean, and that if we dive within, just you go a foot or two below the surface, the water is already silent there. The water is always silent there in the depths. So that's what meditation really is. It's really just tuning in, allowing yourself to be pulled, as I said, by the natural gravitation of the mind toward more happiness, more peace, allowing yourself to be pulled into that. And the more you get attuned to that, the more sitting down and doing that, ideally every day for a few minutes, more and more that awareness of that inner silence sticks with you, so that when the grief happens, when all the other emotions happen, which are a part of human life, they're supposed to be there. When they happen, we can go through them without being overwhelmed by them, because we are experiencing the waves as we're anchored in the silent water beneath the waves.
So that becomes, and that goes back to what you mentioned before. It's finding that solution of who am I?
Yes.
Which is beyond the waves, beyond all the manifestations, and
right.
And just kind of settling into that being.
Yeah. Yes, and so you can't find that who am I by thinking about it. Okay, let me figure out who I am. That's just more thoughts. Who is it that's experiencing those thoughts? Who is it, or what is it that's experiencing your experiences right now? the hot and the cold, the thoughts and the emotions and the sounds and the sensations coming and going. And that, what is it that experienced your 7th birthday party? What is it that experienced falling off the jungle gym and cutting your knee when you were 8? That same silent witnessing awareness, that same beingness that experienced those things in your childhood is what's experiencing you're hearing these words right now. And you can always, once you learn how to just settle back into that, you go, whoa, how did I miss this? It's the most natural thing in the world.
So is this something that just once a person finds that spot, because I would assume that it doesn't be, you say it's natural and it's a gravity pull, but is it something that is easily found quite quickly when you're doing it, or do people need to kind of feel out their way for a while and then all of a sudden, here it is?
It's actually, the settling into it starts happening quite quickly from the beginning. Now, how much clarity people have subjectively of the settling down varies. Some people, the very first time they sit and are guided in this way, go, whoa, that was like falling backwards off a cliff. Some people will say, okay, that was pleasant. It was. I feel kind of settled. I feel a little more centered right now. And that will vary, and that's fine. That's not particularly important. What's important is to keep sitting down, getting more and more comfort at home with it, more acclimated to it, and actually, having deep, amazing, spectacular experiences in meditation is not important. What's important is how it sticks to us when we come back into activity. It's like taking a dry sponge and throwing it in the bucket of water. It comes out wet. And this is, in this case, this is a special sponge that eventually it just stays wet. It never gets dry again. And that's when you hear about, enlightened people, when you look at people like the Dalai Lama and say, boy, why is he so happy all the time? This is why. This is where he's coming from.
Yeah, I remember I was studying Buddhism for a while, and the monk, he was the head monk for a number of temples back in Sri Lanka, and he was this just gentle elderly man, and always a smile, always. Yes. Yep. And you could just feel that presence, that subtle presence, and that existed with him. And so yeah. And
it's very, very fortunate to be around people like that. Not because they have some magical power, but because it's so inspiring. You go, oh, right, that's what it looks like. That's what's possible. That's the way human life is supposed to be, and it's nothing exotic or weird or particularly Buddhist or Hindu or anything else. That's just coming from beingness. It's coming from the center.
Exactly. It's just a state of being, no matter what religion you're in, what culture, what belief system, what work you do. It really doesn't matter. Right. So how could you, for the listeners, just kind of give them a little bit of a rundown of some of the benefits of meditation? Because obviously you're talking about fear less, fear of death and fear.
Right.
What are some physiological benefits that exist from just doing 5-10 minutes or whatever, however long the walk around the park will take?
Right. Physiologically, to put it in very much layman's terms, it's like letting the engine cool off. It's like and letting the engine get tuned up so that when we get back on the road, the engine runs cooler. It idles more quietly. That means less wear and tear. One thing that happens long term is that the effects of aging seem to be less. You look at the Dalai Lama, it's hard to remember that he's 80-something now?
Something like that.
It's like just looking at a happy little child. He has that glow. I'm getting old enough now myself that it's kind of fun when people find out how old I am, because they're usually surprised. So that's a big benefit. Just generally, the body heals more quickly when it's allowed. Just about any disease you get, any medical situation, the doctor will say, okay, do this therapy or take that medicine and get rest, because it's in a state of rest that the body heals itself. So here we're not waiting to get sick. We sit down and allow the mind and body, as we were saying before, because they're connected. When the mind settles down in meditation, the body settles down very deeply along with it. So it's very healing to the body.
And is this something that obviously anyone can do? I mean, there's any kind of limitations and any dangers, anything people should be concerned about through this process? No.
It's not like a medication that's going to be, beneficial to some people but contraindicated for others. It's a good thing for anyone to settle down into their own beingness. That's not going to be bad for anyone.
Yeah.
And there are some people who will tend to have, particularly dramatic results. I've done a lot of work with addicts and alcoholics. In fact, I have a whole chapter about that in the book, about the 12-step program and the things that are very strong about the 12-step program, and also certain elements that in my experience, are missing from it. And actually, Bill Wilson, the founder of the 12 Steps, the founder of AA, he knew that it was missing. And really what it is the 11th step, conscious contact with our higher power, which is through meditation. And just before he died, he'd been seeking, we need a better form of that, making that conscious contact. And actually, about 2 weeks before he died, he learned to do this kind of natural meditation from a friend of mine. And he was near death from emphysema, from smoking many packs of cigarettes a day. And he jumped up out of the room after his first meditation, ran out the door it was this winter in New England, ran around the house, came back and said, "This stuff works."
It's incredible. Well, Dean, it's been such an honor having you on the show, and I truly urge all the listeners. Meditation is such a powerful tool, and you spend less money on medication, on supplements, on counselors, on. I mean, it's such a solution, inexpensive solution that will make everything so much easier. So I appreciate the words of wisdom that you're bringing out to the world, and I appreciate your book. I have it here right by me. Your book, Fear Less.
Great. Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.